Hey, how's it going? So today I'm going to do something a little different. Haven't done it in a while. It is going to be a Spirit TV Critic video. And I am going to talk about one show that I feel like is very much like I should present it alongside another show. It's not so different. I mean, it has a different story, but it is a different show. Excuse me. Are they both a series? Yeah, they're both like a series. So, this one is called Along Bright River. And it stars Amanda Seyfried and, let's do better. Amanda Seyfried as Mickey, Ashley Cummings as her sister Casey, co-stars Nicholas Pinnock and Callum Vinson and John Doman. And there are, and Eddie Lafferty, or not Eddie Lafferty, that's the character he plays. The actor's name is Dash Mihawk. It's M-I-H-O-K. Mihawk, and it can't be Mihawk. I don't think. So let's go with Mihawk. I didn't realize that it was going to be this way. He looks like he would have a pronounceable name. Do with that what you will. But I've seen him. He's a character actor I was familiar with anyway. And he's really excellent in it. So it is it's a murder mystery, but it's got like sister history. And that's what, that's not what it shares with the other show. But what it does share with the other show is a prominent character has a really tragic story. But sticking to Long Bright River, stop going dark on me. The reason why I kind of got barbed onto it, I think, is that because it's a women's story, and more lately, particularly if you're a woman, you may have if you're a woman, you may have noticed that it's been just getting progressively more harsh to be out there, and to be clear, the harshness feels like it's like very masculine in origin, and so there are so many levels where relationships between men and women go bad, and in ways that are just like not safe for the woman. And I know it can go both ways, but this story is about what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to try not to stray into other dynamics too much. But it's not something that exclusively happens to women, that they're dominated by their partners or their superiors at work. That is terrible. Like, they're not necessarily superior just because they're your boss. So I don't like that particular word. You get where I'm coming from. So it's the story of these two sisters, and they're orphans in a way. One parent did die, and they did lose her to drugs. And then the second parent, the father, they did also lose to drugs, but he didn't die. That's just what they were told for convenience sake, which is a coping mechanism of a maybe ill-equipped parent, which is what they had, but it was not exclusive to him. It is, you hear things about ethnic groups, and I've heard a story from another person where a similar thing happened, but I'm not going to talk about it right now. It would be a spoiler. Oh, speaking of spoilers, please look at my signs. So I'm not so worried about spoiling the show, but I don't want to spoil I don't want to spoil my show. Like, I want to get a little bit out ahead of before I say that yet. So, they end up with, the mother is passed away, and then the father is presumed dead. And where do they get that presumption? From their late mother's father, their grandfather, the not very well equipped to be a single parent, because his wife, another source of tragedy, the girl's grandmother and his wife and their dead mother's mother, is also gone. And wait, what happened to her? I don't think it was anything bad. I think it was like an actual accident. But this guy, he has like the kids with a drug problem, and then the kids have kids, and then the cycle just perpetuates in a way. So this guy is a man, and he's an older guy. He's of the generation that doesn't do girl stuff kind of vibe. And you don't see that kind of interaction happening with them so much, but you definitely get the idea that was probably the way it went down in a lot of situations. Well, he's there for these kids 100%, but he's got his own sadnesses and tragedies that he's dealing with. And then he's got these kids to deal with. And he's also running a business, and he's just got a lot on his plate. And like I said, it's not the best situation for anyone. And parenting is not his strong suit. That they're not. Actually, maybe that's not true. Maybe parenting is his average suit, because the family ends up being pretty typical of a lot of families that you or I know. So the girls, young women now, are the focus. And so the story is beautifully, intricately woven. And if you watch a lot of things, you begin to be able to call things. You start to know what's going to happen, especially mysteries or something like that. And this one really had me guessing wrong a lot, and it was fun. It was refreshing. I liked it. And it was nice to have that, because it's not really an upbeat story. But you think you know who's doing what, and just like real life, there's stuff you don't know going on, and people aren't saying all of what there is to be said that they could say. They might be holding back for reasons that, in life, for instance, you might never know why someone held back something from you. You might not ever even know that something was held back from you. But in this story, people learn eventually things later about each other and other people that they had made incorrect assumptions on, or just not even considered. And again, so much like real life, because I can think of a number of times when I was sure some situation was one way, and somebody felt one way about me, and that was that, and there was no approaching the problem, or there was incorrectly, and getting all over somebody wrong, like, and you're wrong. You're just mistaken. And sometimes you have to, like, really be aware of what you're doing and try and keep, I guess as much within the bounds of, like, the decency of the social contract that we have, like, unspoken with each other, like, just everybody in the world generally, like, stay in your bubble and stay out of mine, basically. And sometimes in life, people force their way in various ways, or, like, situations box you in, like, you decide to accept something or some things from people or situations, and the choices you make when you hit those junctures make all the difference. But if you don't have all of the information, messes commence, misunderstandings commence. Actually, I wrote a little something down about it. So, having said that little bit that I said, it's short. Let me find the beginning of it. Okay. Two women with things to say that need to be said, but things stand stubbornly in front of them, preventing them from speech. Fear of men and what they'll allow to be said. Men and what they'll allow to be said, what they don't want to be heard. So much persuasion with a note of threat, outweighed, outsized, and the worst of them won't allow you to forget it. It's a man's world still in it. If you're not there, if you're not one, there are so many who feel like they have every right to constrain you. It's rarely about what they say, when they say, if they say. Few will openly own it. Most will hide that away. For them, it's all about, it all comes out behind closed doors. God forbid someone would get the wrong idea. No one is fooled, not for long. Not when your light still bursts from the bushel they cram over you. The bushel, repeating that. Oh, wow. I guess I kind of did it twice. So there's some points in there that I wanted to make, but I guess I kind of made them. So, okay, I'm just going to jump in here on the, apparently the second one I wrote. Both, referring to the women, end up wearing who they are, like anyone else. There's failure, loss, and tragedy. The women grow up in the care of the grandfather, which I already talked about, a man who's wounded. As much as the girls he takes in, his daughter lost to substance abuse, her little girls, all while he's living with the loss of his wife. It's a man's world in the house where they grew up, on the force, which one of the daughters is. She's like the main character, actually. And so she's on the force, on the street, where the law-avoiding siblings' dependence, substance dependence, led her to life on the street. I need to stop interrupting my sentences. Okay, so where the law-avoiding siblings' dependence has led her to life on the street in a tent city. A tent city populated by other sex workers. Because that's where that sister ended up. There's more than enough misunderstanding and lack of shared information to trigger and confuse everyone in the story. Lies, assault, and surrogate parents. See, I'll just say that. Surrogate. What the hell? Oh, surrogate children. Can't read my own writing. So lies, assault, surrogate children, murder. That's all part of the confusing story. Over the course of the tale, bridges are burned and relationships are hopelessly hopelessly ruined or forever lost. As the survivors dazedly make their way through the rubble of the aftermath, there's rebuilding and redemption. I found my mind returning over and over again to the monologue by America Ferrera in the Barbie movie. The one where she speaks of the hall of mirrors life can be as a woman. Conflicting expectations, twisting and dodging, constantly trying to gauge the intent of strangers, bosses, authority, and the family, child and adult alike. How to come to terms with all of the blame, often assigned, by the way, for what we did or didn't do. So, not to act like things don't happen to other people and other people of other genders don't, run into problems in life and roadblocks and things, but once again, there's a story, there's a narrative here that I'm talking about specifically. But, it mirrors life in so many ways. And in this tale, luckily, although a lot of people do pass for some messed up reasons, like there's people that are doing things they shouldn't be doing, and then there's people that really shouldn't be doing things that they're doing, and I'm talking about the law. So they're all just entangled in the story, good, bad, and ugly. It takes all kinds, and you get them in here. And it's a way to look at the part of life where you kind of are aware that what is happening, you are later going to reflect upon and will probably learn something from, or draw some, and draw some like important knowledge that'll serve you at a later point. Because really, if you're I guess awakened and thinking about things that way, looking at your life from a different perspective, and it does help a lot to just completely kind of, if you can, sort of dissociate from yourself, leave your body and look down from above, but also at yourself as much as one can, really critically examine one's own behavior. I mean, I think that's one way, at least, to get the physical basics, on the imaginary field of play. But perspective is always a good thing to take. I just don't, maybe there's a time and whatever, but I don't think it's ever a bad idea, or reflection. And the good thing about this story is you get to see that people do take the time, whether it's voluntary or not, they end up being able to reflect on things, and you get to see even the stages of reflection, because you will be influenced over time. I find that healing from something, which is basically what I'm talking about here in this story, takes a minute, and maybe it's like ocean waves. every time the water returns to like wash over you, it takes away some of what wounded you and is a healing. And so you're vulnerable still, like you're not completely healed, and you could be triggered by something, and it could just as easily be something that you're fearful of that is genuinely there, that could be harmful to you. Like, be afraid of that. Or it could just be like you're in that traumatized state where you're just tender and hyper reactive. Either way, you kind of don't want to place yourself in those situations if you're in the midst of healing, but sometimes you can't avoid it because that is how life is. You know, you can have a great wound, like a loss of a loved one, and eventually you got to come back to work. Like, people are like, come on now, grieve on the inside and get on with it. So that's another thing that I liked about this story is that it was very human-y. I really liked the parts where people had time to think and made decisions. I didn't always like the decisions, but over the course of the movie, most of the decisions went through that process that I was talking about, of like the over and over again lapping of the healing, which is, you go from feeling weak and defeated and just dejected to you build up your strength and your spirit again. So it's a gradual process, and you get to see it going maybe not at the way that you wished it would or that you would have expected, and you also get to see it going ways that are better than you would have expected, particularly if you are a character in the story. Like, things end up looking pretty good for mostly everybody involved. So, some of the parallels between this and the other one I wanted to talk about, though, were the way that women in the stories are placed in kind of impossible situations, and mainly they have been traumatized, and then they run into like authority figures or just concerned loved ones, or actually after you've been assaulted, which is kind of the theme in that parallel. Sometimes you can't just be talking to people and having a bunch of people like come at you and more, but for the next video on the next story I want to talk about. So you might have noticed, I'll just give you another look on my signs that it says like no bad reviews, and so that just means that I'm not going to talk about something I did not like on here. So you can go away with the assumption, if you couldn't tell from my enthusiasm, that this was like a really good series. Wait, was it a movie or a series? Hold on. Let me check that IMDb real quick. No, I don't care about that. Series. It was a series. A limited series, I suppose you could say, and it was on I think Amazon Prime. I will make certain of that when I post this. Yeah, hold on, I have to stop talking, right? Okay, I guess I didn't have to stay with the camera rolling to do what I just did, but you got it anyway. But I highly recommend it. Long Bright River. If you're into themes and you're a woman, you might like it. And also, it's like got that women's TV thing of the the terrible crimes against women murder mysteries. Thank you and good night.